We have been discussing about artifacts in the previous class. Artifacts are artificially generated facts. Basically, there are 5 types of artifacts of knowledge. They are facts. Facts means specific and unique data or instance. Then concepts. These are the classes of items, words or ideas identified by a common name or features. By a common name, we will be identifying some words or ideas. They are called as concepts. Then processes. We know that processes are a sequence of events that describes the working of things rather than their functions. That is, what to do is explained by the term process. Then procedures, series of step-by-step actions and decisions that cause a task to be achieved. How can we do a thing is a process. So procedure. So the difference between process and procedure is that what to do is explained by a process and how to do is explained by procedures. Then we have principles. They are the guidelines, rules and parameters that determine the artifacts of knowledge. So these are the basic types of artifacts of knowledge. We have seen in earlier classes towards the definition of AI, when we were discussing the definition of AI, that the artifacts are used in knowledge creation process to create 2 types of knowledge. We have seen these 2 types of knowledge as declarative knowledge and procedural knowledge. So these artifacts are used in the creation of these 2 types of knowledge. So by looking at the figure, we can say that we have some artificially generated facts, and from that we are obtaining declarative knowledge, and we are producing procedural knowledge, and with that knowledge or with these 2 knowledges we are creating new artifacts. Now these new artifacts can be joined with these current artifacts, and this process continue in a spiral manner. This is repeated again and again so that the artifacts are generated. New artifacts are generated by following these steps or procedures or knowledges. By passing through these knowledges, we are creating new artifacts. Artifacts are created and updated in a cyclic process. We will be going on updating this artifact by passing through declarative knowledge, procedural knowledge, creation of new artifacts, and addition or updation of the current artifact. Again, this process continues. And the declarative knowledge can be divided into 2 as episodic knowledge. One is episodic knowledge. This refers to a very short period of time or memory, a short period of memory for certain episodes. Episode means which covers a short period, such as the context of where, when, with whom, usually measured by accuracy measures. This can be considered as a personal event. It's not the interest of general that is counted. It's a personal event. So episodic knowledge may relate to persons. For example, recollection of a party on 20th birthday and the events carried out on that day may be remembered by very few people who are immensely dependent on that party. There may be other people who have participated in the party, but they may not be remembering the activities that have taken place in that, because those activities are not personal to those people. It's not of general interest. So episodic knowledge belongs to a very few or personal activities, which refers to a short-term memory. So another one is semantic knowledge. This refers to a long period for worldly knowledge, facts, meanings of words, etc., which stays for a long time. That is semantic knowledge. Episodic knowledge is for short period, whereas semantic knowledge is for long period. Semantic knowledge refers to knowing that alphabetically the first month of the year is April. This will stay for a very long time for any persons. The first alphabetical month in a year is April. There are only 2 months that begins with the letter A. One is April and the other is August. So when we compare these two, April comes before August, is it not? So alphabetically the first month is April, but chronologically it is January. January comes first. When we take chronological order, if we take the alphabetical order, April comes in the front. This will be same for each and every person in the world. So this can be treated as a semantic knowledge because it is stated and static. They are not personal but common. They are long-term processing ideas and concepts. Another example can be, or examples can be, sound of a vowel, color of an object, capital of a country. They are all common to every person in the world. This is not particular to personal events. That is semantic knowledge. Then we have procedural knowledge. Declarative knowledge are based on declarations or statements, whereas procedural knowledge involves the knowledge of the following aspects: formal language, symbolic representation, knowledge of rules, algorithms and procedures. These things we have already seen about declarative knowledge and procedural knowledge. It is the know-how which involves how to perform a task. So it is hard to point out or record this event. It is the action that is being performed. So this knowledge is often difficult to put into words than declarative knowledge. It is action based. What is being done will be covered in this procedural knowledge. The advantages of procedural knowledge are the involvement of hands-on experience, because we are doing things, so we have hands-on experience, and we have, with that hands-on experience, we are practicing to get the problem solution. We understand the limitations of a specific solution because we are having hands-on experience. We can represent the heuristics. Representation of heuristic can be considered because they are the information that we follow while solving a problem. Then facilitation of default reasoning. Default reasons are assumptions that are made in the absence of information available. Then enabling modeling of side effects of actions. When we are having hands-on experience, there may be the side effects of actions which can be taken into consideration. Then the disadvantages of procedural knowledge are that not all cases may be represented. We may not be able to represent all the cases. Not all deductions may be correct because we have the liberty to assume some information which are not present, and based on that information we will be solving the problem. This may not be correct always. We will be knowing about this only when the absent information are available at a later stage. So not all deduction that we have made may be correct. Changes in knowledge base might have far-reaching effects. We have seen that knowledge base is of dynamic nature, and its changes because of the assumptions made may have a far-reaching effect if it is not a good assumption. Then controlling information is cumbersome because we have seen that even a slight change in the environment can result in variations in the information. And then storing all this information or controlling all this information is a very difficult task. Job dependence nature tends to be less general than declarative knowledge. We have also seen in earlier classes the different approaches to AI goals. We can approach the definition of AI from different angles. So there were 4 approaches to AI goals. One is systems that think like humans, systems that think rationally, systems acting like humans, and systems acting rationally. All these 4 things we have discussed in detail in the previous classes. We have seen some fundamental system issues before. That is, AI system must store knowledge because we are using the knowledge for solving problems, and this knowledge has to be applied to find the solution of problems, and we have to update this knowledge either by adding new knowledges or updating the existing knowledge with the new knowledge. It is acquired through experience. So we have seen these 3 things, that is storing the knowledge, applying that knowledge, and updating the knowledge through experience. And based on these situations or factors, we are signifying the AI system components as knowledge representation, searching and reasoning, finally learning. These also we have seen in the class before. Now the knowledge progression means the changes that happen in the values available with us in the process of problem solving. Knowledge is a progression that starts with data which is of limited utility. We have the data, raw data at first, and by organizing or analyzing the data, we understand what the data means, and this becomes information. Whenever we assign some meaning to the data by any kind of processes or analysis or organizing the data, we get the information. Then by interpreting or evaluating the information, which takes us to the knowledge. So whenever the information is evaluated or interpreted, we get knowledge. And understanding of the principles within the knowledge is known as wisdom. So we are traveling from data, raw data, to wisdom through information and knowledge. This is called as knowledge progression. Now let us see how to represent knowledge. This was a problem in the previous class. Knowledge representation is something we have to take into consideration for solving artificial intelligence problems. Knowledge is the description of the world and representation is the way knowledge is encoded. So these are two words, separate words, distinct words, knowledge and knowledge representation. Knowledge is the description of the world entity and representation is the way a knowledge is encoded. Different types of knowledge require different kinds of representation. The knowledge are of different types, then their representation also should be different. The knowledge representation models or mechanisms are based on logic, the rules, frames, and semantic net. These topics will be covered in later sessions. So there are 4 bases for knowledge representation models. They are logic representation, rules representation, frames representation, and semantic net representation. Different types of knowledge require different kinds of reasoning. So this progression can be picturized like this. Knowledge progression begins with data and we are analyzing or organizing this data or assigning some meaning to the data for forming the information. We have to interpret or evaluate this information for getting the knowledge. And whenever using some principle, we understand the knowledge, it generates the wisdom. So data is used as a collection of disconnected facts. At the first instance, all the values will be disconnected because they don't have any value with them. For example, it is raining is a data. Now how this becomes information? Information emerges when relation among facts are established and understood. So these disconnected values or facts are connected with some rules or understandings, then it becomes information. Providing answers to who, what, where, when, etc. are the relation among facts. Suppose it is raining is being converted into information. As an example, we can say that temperature dropped 15 degrees and it started raining. So we have given some meaning to the raining process as the reason to rain was the drop in the temperature below 15 degrees. So it gets some meaning. So that becomes an information. Then we have the knowledge. It emerges when relationship among patterns are identified and understood. Answering to how gives the relation among patterns. So we have the information which are considered as patterns. Then from that pattern or information, we are generating some relation to form the knowledge. That relation is obtained by answering to the question how. Let us continue with the same raining example. If the humidity is very high, temperature drops subsequently and atmosphere holds the moisture, so it rains. So we are reasoning the happening of the raining process by this statement. So this becomes a knowledge. Wisdom is the understanding of the principles of relation that describe pattern. The principle behind the knowledge is understood and then it becomes wisdom. Providing the answer for why gives understanding or interaction between patterns. Understanding all the interactions that may happen between raining, evaporation, air currents, temperature gradients, and changes. All these are scientific activities which leads to the raining process. Now this understanding of these factors takes us to the state wisdom. So the knowledge progression, which began from raw data, modified into information, which changed into knowledge, and finally we reached at wisdom.